We will start the very important topic of part of speech tagging. Before that, we finish what we left in the last lecture, namely the argmax based noisy channel computation of parse tree from a sentence. So, we said that the source sentence passes through a noisy channel, does an argmax based computation or faces an argmax based computation, and a target parse tree is produced. So, the expressions show here the theory and the computation. T star is the best possible tree in the sense of probability value of the condition probability P t given S, and the conditioning or the argmax based computation is over all possible t's. Now, we apply Bayes theorem and convert this probability into P t into P s given t. P s given t is 1, because given the tree, the sentence is completely determined without any uncertainty. The leaf nodes traversed in that order produces the sentence, and P t is the prior probability, which is the probability of the tree. So, T star becomes a very simple expression now. It is argmax over all possible t's of P t, the probability of the parse tree t. Now, this is a very intuitive and seemingly obvious expression, where the best possible parse tree of a sentence is nothing but the tree which has the highest probability. So, that naturally leads to the question as to how to compute the probability value of the parse tree. What is the meaning of the probability of the parse tree? So, this is a discussion reserved for the topic of parsing and probabilistic parsing, which we do later, but I just want to give you the main idea behind. Now, probabilistic context free grammar forms the foundation of this discussion. Probabilistic context free grammar is just like context free grammar, where only the additional thing is that with every rule or every rewrite rule or every production, we have a probability value. So, these symbols try to capture a small grammar of English. Let us go through these rules one by one. S goes to NPVP, that means a sentence is composed of a noun phrase and a verb phrase. An example, a simple example of that would be children play, where children is noun phrase, play is the verb phrase, and every sentence has noun phrase and verb phrase. All sentences are composed of these two constituents. There is no other possibility for a sentence, and therefore, the probability value is 1.0. This kind of certainty with respect to probability is not the case for other kinds of phrases, because NP, which is a noun phrase, can be constructed in many different ways. 3 ways are shown here. NP goes to DT NN, that means a determiner and NN. This is a very common situation for a noun phrase. The boy, DT is the, NN is boy. NP goes to NNS. What is NNS? NNS is a plural noun, and the convention comes from what is called the Pen Tree Bank, okay, which is an important project for corpora creation, annotated corpora creation, and they adopted this convention, and it is shown here also. So, a noun phrase is a plural noun. Okay. Then the final NP production is noun phrase is a noun phrase followed by a preposition phrase. So, this is a recursive definition with left recursion. NP is an NP followed by a preposition phrase. So, let us say we invoke the NNS rewrite for this recursive NP. So, suppose NP is now NNS PP. So, we have to have, we are looking for an example where the noun phrase starts with a plural noun and has a preposition phrase. So, that is easy to find out, because preposition phrase, what is the definition? The definition is that it starts with a preposition and is then followed by a noun phrase. So, suppose here also for noun phrase we use plural noun, and therefore, this now becomes noun phrase is a plural noun followed by a preposition followed by another plural noun. So, can you think of a construct of this kind? Not very difficult. So, this would be boys with footballs, for example. This will follow this structure. Boys is NNS plural noun, with is a preposition, and with footballs is similarly a plural noun. Boys with footballs were spotted on the ground. That is the sentence here. So, noun phrase can be of different kinds. In this case, there are three possibilities, namely determiner noun, plural noun, and noun phrase followed by a preposition phrase. The boy, boys, okay, boys with footballs. Preposition phrase is a preposition followed by a noun phrase. So, things like with a binocular, in the train, by the people, for the people, of the people, all these are preposition phrases. VP is the verb phrase, the next important structure after the noun phrase, and verb phrase can be again of different kinds. These captures two different situations for forming a verb phrase. A verb phrase can be a verb phrase followed by PP, a preposition phrase. This is a left recursive production once again, and this is a basic rule. Verb phrase is VBD, D indicates the past tense, ED reminiscent of the ED suffix, and VBD indicating past tense is again from the Pentry bank. So, here it is an example of a verb phrase which is past tense verb followed by a noun phrase, and this actually captures the transitive verb situation, that is verbs which take objects. So, for example, VBD could be played, NP could be football, okay, or saw the boy. NP is DTNN, VBD is saw the boy. And VP with PP, VP is VP and PP, a recursive definition. What could be an example for that? An example for that could be saw with telescopes. Okay. People saw Everest with telescopes. So, saw Everest, okay, or saw mountains with telescopes. Saw mountains with telescopes will be parsed by this grammar, but saw Everest with telescopes will not be parsed, because we have not made provision for noun phrase going to a singular noun. Okay. But it could parse things like saw the Everest. If you introduce the before Everest, that could be parsed. Anyway, so this shows how some segment of English, a few constructs of English are captured by production rules, which are context free grammar rules. So, there is nothing new in this. What is new are these probability values. We come in a minute to the understanding of these probability values. Notice the probability is here in the right hand side. DT goes to the with 1.0. So, this is not a completely correct situation, because a determiner can be the, a and n, right. So, this is a limited view of DT. What DT is? DT is the, we are ignoring here a and n. And NN is noun which goes to gunman. This means that our machine has seen only the word gunman, and another word of course, it has seen, this is building, and VBD, the past tense verb is sprayed, NNS is bullets. So, this is an extremely artificial situation. We know that English language has many plural nouns, lakhs of nouns, and there are many verbs, 30,000-40,000 verbs, and if you also consider their past tense form, there would be an equal number. So, therefore, this is a very artificial situation where the machine has been exposed to only one sentence. Can you imagine what the sentence is? The sentence is the gunman sprayed the building with bullets. Okay. So, since the appears twice, it has to be taken into account only once in the production rule, and we divide the probability equally amongst gunman and building, because the computation is a probability of n going to gunman is the number of times gunman appears divided by total number of times total number of nouns. The total number of nouns here, singular noun of course, is 2. So, this is 1 by 2, 1 by 2, 0.5, and there is only one plural noun, which is bullets, and NNS goes to bullets with 1.0 probability. Now, one question that might arise in your mind at this stage is that what is the point of keeping the plural nouns as bullets, let us say. Okay. One could always do morphology analysis or run a tool which is called the morphology analyzer, and that isolates the suffix s and says that bullet is a singular noun. Okay, we will talk about all these things later. So, parsing typically is preceded by a phase of morphology, preceded by a phase of parsing, part of speech tagging, which is our next topic of discussion. So, we just accept the following at this stage, that a context free grammar, probabilistic context free grammar is a set of production rules just like in context free grammar, but associated with probability values. Now, let us quickly understand what these probability values mean. The probability values mean that noun phrase being expressed as determiner and noun occurs 50% of the time in the corpus. Okay. How is the corpus created? Corpus is created by lexicographers, linguists, language experts, who produce this kind of structure on the sentences. Okay. So, the number of times this structure is found in the corpus divided by total number of noun phrases in the corpus, it gives me the probability value. Right. So, this shows that in the corpus 50% of the time noun phrases appeared. Of the 50% time the noun phrases appeared, it was DTNN. Okay. So, NP was DTNN 50% of the time. NP appeared as plural noun 30% of the time. NP appeared as noun phrase followed by preposition phrase 20% of the time. Okay. Similarly, verb phrase had 60%, 40% distribution. Okay. So, this is quite clear. Just let me give an example of how the machine actually looks at the corpora and gets these structures. So, let me take a very simple example of how the corpora looks like. So, if we have a sentence like boys saw mountains with telescopes. Boys saw mountains with telescopes, this is a sentence. So, we begin with S goes to NPVP. So, in this case the whole structure is S, of course. Okay. Boys saw mountains with telescopes. Okay. The whole thing is S. Now, we identify noun phrases and verb phrases in this and give similar kind of bracketing. So, we are doing what is called the top down processing. Now, boys is the noun phrase and the whole sentence part saw mountains etc., is the verb phrase. Okay. So, is it clear to you how the bracketing is being done? Boys saw mountains with telescopes is S, and then boys is NP, saw mountains with telescopes is VP. What we are doing is essentially top down parsing. In the next step, we have to give finer structures to this. Boys cannot be broken up further because NP goes to NNS is a rule which cannot be elaborated further. However, NP goes to NNS, we have to give the closest tag to this NNS voice. Okay. So, this finishes the story on voice, which is voice is a plural noun indicated by NNS as a bracket, and this is also the noun phrase as indicated by NP. The processing of verb phrase is little more complex, because we have VP here. Saw is also a verb phrase, and it is not very obvious how we should group them or break them apart. So, we have saw mountains with telescopes. With telescopes has to be a preposition phrase. So, we put it down here with telescopes, and this is a PP. Okay. The whole thing is under a VP, and here we have to invoke the rule VP goes to VP PP. It is a left recursive rule. So, saw mountains is another VP. Okay. So, you see how the structure is emerging. S is nothing but NP and VP at the topmost level. NP in this case is NNS. NNS is voice, and VP, the verb phrase saw mountains with telescopes, is broken up into VP and PP. PP is with telescopes, saw mountains. I will not expand the NP part, because that is same, it will continue to remain same, and I will just say this is the NP without showing the details below it. However, the VP has saw, and saw we know is a VBD. Okay. Mountains is NNS. Okay. So, the whole thing is the VP, okay, and with telescopes remains the PP. We would like to break the PP now. Proceeding further, we get S, NP is as before. Within VP we have a VP with saw as VBD, mountains as NNS, and with telescopes is a PP, with being a P, and telescopes being NNS, okay, which is also the NP. Okay. So, this whole thing finishes the PP, whole thing finishes the VP, and whole thing finishes S. Okay. Is large number of brackets makes the expression slightly complicated towards the end, but I guess you get the main idea. Okay. Now, what we can do is that we can go bottom up. We can go from the words and see how the final structure emerges. So, telescopes is NNS, plural noun, which again is a noun phrase. So, NP goes to NNS is invoked. P with is a P. So, P with NP, P and NP gives rise to PP, which is the higher level structure. So, the work of PP is over. Now, we come to mountains, which is NNS, which again requires an NP to be placed. This is NP. VBD and NP together forms a VP. This is the rule, VP goes to VBD NP. This is invoked now. The whole thing of the VP and the PP forms the VP. So, VP goes to VP PP, this left recursive rule is invoked. We have the NP here, NP and VP together forms S. Okay. So, this illustrates how the bracketed corpus is created for training a machine to learn parsing. Okay. And you must have seen how complicated the process is. Okay. A process like this is invoked on the sentences, and many times of course, a rule based parser can create this kind of structure, and many times not, because the rule bases have their own limitations. But once the structure is created, it is now suitable for a machine to process, and the machine can be trained to learn parsing. Okay. I draw your attention to the bracketings. The bracketings essentially capture the internal structure of the sentence, and how smaller structures group together to form a higher level structure, and the highest level structure is S. So, what should be noted here is how the annotator is required to invoke the correct rule at specific points of processing of the sentence. So, the person has to be knowledgeable with respect to the syntax of the language, must have a very good idea of the properties of the words. Okay. So, telescopes for example, could be a singular a third person singular verb also. Okay. Telescopes as a verb, and saw is a verb in past tense, but saw could also be a noun, okay, an instrument for cutting wood, let us say. So, this the lexicographer who is producing these kind of brackets has to know the structure of the sentences, the structure of the grammar, and the properties of the words. So, this is by no means a non-trivial task. It requires lot of money and time to create this kind of resource, bracketed structure of sentences, but once created it becomes useful for training a machine to learn. Okay. So, we now of course, we again come back to the bracketed structure we created on the paper, and now I can explain to you how the probability values are calculated. So, now you see here VP going to VBD NP, this structure appears once, and VP not VP, but NP going to NNS, NP going to NNS was invoked twice for telescopes and boys, okay, and thrice actually. NP goes to NNS was invoked for boys, mountains and telescopes. Okay. So, what the machine will do is that it will find that NP goes to NNS was applied 3 times, whereas NP, no, in this case NP going to NNS is the only production which is used. However, VP going to VBD NP and VP going to VP and PP, these are the 2 instances of the verb phrase expansion. Okay. And since they appear with equal number, if this was the only corpus available, only evidence available, then you have no other choice than distributing the probability equally to VP goes to VP PP and VP goes to VBD NP. Okay. So, this kind of bracketed structure is looked at by the machine to compute the probability by counting, simply counting. Okay. So, now let us understand what is the meaning of the probability of a tree, and how one has to choose the best possible tree in terms of its probability value. This sentence, the gunman sprayed the building with bullets, is an ambiguous sentence. Do not think of do not look at the sentence from the world knowledge point of view, but simply from the point of view of structure. Okay. So, the gunman sprayed the building with bullets. In this case, what is the status of this prepositional phrase with bullets? With bullets, with bullets. So, the immediate answer I suppose that you will make is with bullets is the entity with which the gunman sprayed the building. So, with bullets goes with sprayed, and therefore, this is the logical structure. This is the logical structure. So, sentence goes to noun phrase and verb phrase. A noun phrase is again determiner and noun, which is the gunman. Verb phrase goes to verb phrase and preposition phrase with left recursion. Notice that preposition phrase being here makes it attached to the main verb. Okay. The main verb is spray. So, spray with bullets is the reading. VP going to VBD and NP, which is sprayed. NP here is the building through DT and NN. PP is preposition and noun phrase, and in this case the noun phrase is a plural noun, bullets. So, with bullets. So, the point to be noted here is that the PP is at the same level as this VP, which contains the main verb. This structure contains the main verb sprayed. Okay. This contains the main verb sprayed. So, this way of forming the tree is telling me that with bullets is attached to sprayed. The gunman used bullets to spray the building. Let us look at the other parse tree. Okay, the other parse tree, let me draw on the paper. The gunman sprayed the building with bullets. S again goes to NP and VP. NP goes to DT and NN, which is the gunman. VP goes to VBD NP. This is the other invocation of the rule VP. Okay. So, VP can be expanded as VP PP or VBD NP. Now, VBD becomes sprayed, NP on expansion becomes NP and PP. This NP becomes DT and NN and produces the building. Okay. And PP is P and P. This P becomes with NP is bullets. So, NP goes to N and S and bullets. So, notice the difference between the two structures. Okay, I will draw your attention once to the slide, where this PP is at the same level as VP, or PP is at the same level as a structure which contains the main verb. Okay. Whereas, if you look at the tree that I drew on the paper, here you find that the PP is not at the same level as the main verb sprayed. It is at a level below, at one level below, in the sense that there is an NP and that NP contains the another NP and PP. So, this means that the preposition phrase is attached to the noun phrase here. That means, it is attached with the building. So, as if the building has bullets in it. Okay. Which building? That building which has bullets in it, the building with bullets. Okay. So, the gunman sprayed the building which has bullets, which contains bullets. Okay. So, this is another possible reading of the sentence. The sentence is ambiguous. This is very similar to a very famous sentence in natural language processing. The sentence is, I saw the boys with telescopes. Okay, I saw the boys with telescopes, and the ambiguity here is who has the telescopes. I saw the boys using my telescope, or I saw a boy who had telescope. Okay, that is the meaning. So, similar is the situation in this case. In one case, with bullets is attached to building, in the other case with bullets is attached to sprayed. Okay, that is the ambiguity. Now, the question is which parse tree is more probable. This is found out by computing the probability values, and the theory for this will be discussed later when we do probabilistic parsing in detail. But in this case, for the moment, suffice it to say that the probability of the parse tree is nothing but the probabilities of the rule applications. So, this first 1.0 comes from S going to NPVP, and that is a definite rule with no uncertainty, and therefore, 1.0 into 0.5. Where does this come from? This comes from the fact that NP has been expanded as DT NN, and that occurs 50% of the times in corpora with probability 0.5. Therefore, this is the 0.5. Then again I have a 1.0. This is the expansion of DT with probability 1.0. There is only one determiner, which is the. Then we have a probability value of 0.5, which is noun going to gunman. Okay. Assume this is the probability value. And then we come to this part of the tree. The multiplication factor is 0.6 here, which comes from this value 0.6, which means VP is expanded into VP PP with probability 0.6. That is the 0.6 here. Then we have 0.4, which is the probability of this VP expansion, which is VBD and NP, that has a probability of 0.4. So, this is 0.4. Then 1.0 comes from PP being expanded as PNP. PP is expanded only this way as given in the grammar. There are no other possibilities. So, 1.0. So, this is the 1.0. Now, we have another 0.5, which comes from the NP getting expanded as DT and NN. Okay. And then we have 1.0 with DT being the, another 0.5, which is NN going as building, and then there is another 1.0, which is the preposition with. This is the only preposition in the grammar. Then NP expanded into NNS with 0.3 probability, which is 0.3, and NNS becoming bullet with 1.0 probability. Okay. So, this is the way the probability of a parse tree is computed, namely the probability of rule application or the probabilities associated with the production rules, simply the product of probabilities. Now, the question of why this is done, what is the rationale behind this, what is the theory behind this, that will be explained later when we do probabilistic parsing in detail. So, this is the probability comes out to be 0.00225. I am not showing the probability of the tree which is drawn in the paper. Okay. I am not showing that probability. Again, one can record the probability values on the nodes for the rule application. This is given in the grammar. Take the probability values, take their product, and you will find that the probability value here will come out to be less than the probability value on the slide. Okay. So, this means that this tree is much more probable than the tree I drew on the paper, and this is because you might be tempted to say that, well, the gunman sprayed the building with bullets is a much more feasible situation than sprayed the building which contains bullets, which is fine as far as the world knowledge is concerned. But the machine does not have that kind of common sense knowledge. It goes purely by counts, and it so happens that the production rules here are occurring more in the corpus, okay, giving thereby the evidence that the verb phrase indeed is expanded as verb phrase and preposition phrase many more times, and preposition phrase gets attached to the verb. Also, the verb phrase becoming VBD and NP is more frequent at deeper levels of parsing, okay, rather than at the top level. So, these kind of phenomena exist in the corpora, and the machine simply computes the frequency and obtains the probability value. Okay. One should not be tempted to believe that the machine has intelligence and world knowledge, but the point is that world knowledge and intelligence can be almost simulated. I am tempted to say, if there is a very large amount of corpus and people's actual language behavior, written sentences, spoken utterances can be captured. Okay. And there we will find the evidence for preposition phrase getting attached to verb more frequently than to the noun. Okay. So, that is the point. Okay. So, from this the main conclusion we draw is that it is possible to obtain the parse tree of a sentence through argmax based computation, and in the argmax based computation the tree which is chosen finally as the output is the tree with the highest probability. The probability is found simply by taking the product of production rules. The theory will be done later. We now move on to a very important topic, a very fundamental basic topic of natural language processing called pause tagging, part of speech tagging. Part of speech is something which you have done before in your high school. The very famous part of speeches are top level categories: noun, verb, adjective, adverb. Adjectives qualify nouns, adverbs qualify verbs. So, there are verbals and nominals. So, these are basic grammatical categories which come from our high school grammar. So, one might be wondering what has pause tagging got to do with natural language processing. It is a very important point to discuss. So, let us go ahead and make those issues. Part of speech tagging is a process that attaches each word in a sentence with a suitable tag from a given set of tags. Okay. What are these tags? We will see in a minute through examples. The set of tags is called the tag set. There are many standard tag sets. So, Penn Tree Bank is the most famous one for English, and some examples of this we will see very soon. So, pause tagging is a process that attaches each word in a sentence with a suitable tag from a given set of tags. That is the main point. Now, the point is that who creates these tags, how is the set of tags defined. Okay. Lot of intricate linguistic and computational concerns go behind the design of a tag set. We will see as we discuss pause tagging that certain things are not possible when we are at the level of pause tagging without invoking syntax and semantics of the sentence, the higher level structure of the sentence or the meaning of the sentence. But the point is that if we do that, then we are putting the cart before the horse. The horse has to pull the cart, and therefore, it has to be behind the horse, which means that we are doing an activity which is supposed to be done later. Okay. So, syntax analysis, semantic analysis require as a fundamental step the part of speeches of the words constituting the sentence. So, how could we assume any syntactic or semantic knowledge for pause tagging when those activities actually follow pause tagging? Okay, this is the point. So, at the level of part of speech tagging, we will not be able to produce certain tags, and therefore, those tags will not be useful in the tag set, because those tags cannot be produced. Okay. And therefore, these kind of considerations go for designing the set of tags, the tag set. Let us look at some example of pause tags. NN is the most important and most frequent pause tag. This stands for common noun. For example, dog NN. So, look at the convention here. There is a oft accepted convention where the word is followed by an underscore and followed by the tag. So, this means that dog underscore NN, here dog is a noun. Now, what is an example of this? I saw a dog. Here dog is a noun. So, dog will be tagged as underscore NN. VM or the main verb is possibly the next most important entity, and here the example I have chosen is run. Okay. So, if we have dogs run, okay, dogs run, or a dog runs and so on. So, let us not worry about the morphological changes here, dogs, runs, etc. So, run is the main verb, run underscore VM is the main verb. VAUX is the auxiliary verb. For example, is, am, are, these are auxiliary verbs. In this case, is the example. So, is underscore v aux is the auxiliary verb. JJ stands for adjective. Okay. So, one might wonder where does JJ come from? This is from the pentag set. The most likely adjective is pronounced that way. The D has a palatal sound j. So, that is why this gives an impression of double J, and that is why JJ is kept here. So, for example, a red ball, here red is an adjective. So, red will be tagged as underscore JJ. PRP is a proper noun. So, I, you, we, she, these are proper nouns. In this case, I have taken the example of you, which is you underscore PRP. So, if the sentence is you laugh, then you underscore PRP, laugh underscore VM finishes the tagging of the sentence. NNP is proper noun. For example, John underscore NNP is the proper noun. Okay. So, one could tag a complete sentence by means of these kind of tags. This is not the full tag set by any means, that is why there is an extra here. You could go to the site of Pentree Bank, go to Google, type as a query Pentree Bank, and you would be led to the home page of Pentree Bank project, and then you will see all these tags there. Okay. So, I suppose the meaning of these tags and their purpose is quite clear. Now, why is pause tag a difficult problem? The problem is difficult because of this very basic or common situation prevailing in natural language processing, namely that of ambiguity. So, pause tag ambiguity is rampant in language. In English, we know that almost all nouns can be used as verbs. So, I take this very interesting sentence, though improbable. I bank on the river bank for my transactions. Okay. So, for my financial transactions, I bank on the river bank. Okay. So, the word bank appears 3 times here, and therefore, this convention, linguistic convention is followed, which is the lower suffix. So, bank 1 is the first appearance of the word bank, bank 2 is the second appearance, bank 3 is the third appearance. So, for financial transactions, I bank on the river bank. The first bank is the verb, meaning depend. So, I depend on the bank on the river bank for my transactions. The other 2 banks are noun, but you can see that here is a situation for word sense disambiguation. The second bank is the actual bank from where money is withdrawn or into which money is put in. So, this is where financial transactions are carried out, whereas this bank is a place, river bank is a place. So, word sense disambiguation will be called for to get the correct sense of the 2 banks. The first bank, of course, is a verb. Now, the question is when the pause tagger is called to put labels on the words of this sentence, I will be labeled as PRP, and bank will be noun, on will get the tag for preposition, the will get the tag for determiner. This bank now will have to get the tag for noun. The first bank has to get the tag for verb VM, this is the main verb. So, this is noun NN, on the tag for preposition, the tag for determiner, river tag for noun, and bank again the tag for noun. For tag for preposition, my the tag for pronoun, and transactions the tag for noun. So, I and my are pronouns here, okay. And this bank is the only verb. Prepositions, there are 3 of them, on, for, and the nouns are bank, transactions, river. Okay. So, this shows that pause tag can be facing the challenge of ambiguity. In Hindi, so this is not the situation only in English, in all languages the pause tag ambiguity exists. From the context one can make out the actual part of speech, but sometimes it may not be possible. Now, here is an example in Hindi where we deal with the pause tag ambiguity. Khana. Khana can be noun in the sense of food, or it can be a verb to eat, which is the infinitival form. So, मुझे खाना खाना है और मुझे खाना खाना चाहिए. This is like the previous sentence in English, I bank on the river bank. Here we are saying मुझे खाना खाना है. So, the first khana is noun, okay. I need to eat food, and second khana is verb in the infinitival form. There is another example here which is interesting. Ram अच्छा गाता है. Hai is auxiliary verb, okay, and the sentence means Ram sings well. Ram अच्छा लड़का है. Here hai has a different grammatical role. It is what is called copula verb, V cop, copular verb. So, the symbols also are different, V ox and V cop, and the meaning of the sentence is Ram is a good boy. So, Ram sings well and Ram is a good boy. So, I draw your attention here to two problems. One is hai, okay, hai. One is hai. So, this hai has the auxiliary role, and ladka hai has the copular role. Okay. How will the pause tagging system find out one is auxiliary, the other is copular? Think about this. The other problem is acha appears at both places. Ram acha gata hai. This acha is an adverb. It is qualifying the action of singing. And acha ladka hai, here it is qualifying the noun ladka, okay, a particular quality of the ladka. So, this is an adjective. So, acha in the first sentence is adverb, the second sentence acha is adjective. Hai in the first sentence is auxiliary verb, hai in the second sentence is copular verb. So, when the pause tagger works, it has to correctly produce the tags, in the first case adverb, in the second case adjective, and this is a disambiguation task. It has to do it correctly. One might be advancing a simple rule saying that if an adjective is if a word which can be both adverb and adjective is followed by a noun, then it is actually an adjective. If it is followed by a verb, it has to be an adverb. Okay. But this is, though this rule is simple, this rule is not all encompassing. It can fail for situations which we will explain in the next class.